Today on Witnesses in Training, we're talking about gospel and gospel fluency. What would it be like for us to naturally talk about the gospel truths in everyday life? We read about in Deuteronomy chapter 6 verse 4 that God calls his people, Israel, to teach their family, their children diligently about who he is and how we are to live. God says, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, and with all of your might. And these words that I command you today shall be on your heart, and you shall teach them diligently to your children. You shall talk about it in your house, when you sit down in your house, when you walk along the way, when you lie down, and when you rise." Everywhere you are, whenever you are with your family or your kids, to be speaking about who God is and how we are to live in light of that. And ultimately, this is speaking about the kingdom, speaking about Jesus. And so we want to be learning about how we talk about Jesus in everyday life. Hi. So understanding and speaking the gospel is much like understanding and speaking a language. First it starts with vocabulary, and then it goes on to grammar, and then eventually we master it and we become fluent in it. So how do we become fluent in the gospel? Well, it takes practice, it takes time. And so we're going to talk more about this in the next few videos. I encourage you to be practicing talking about the gospel, sharing your faith with one another in your small groups in your church. That's the best way to practice. And also with the people around you who don't know Jesus. We just try and do what we can with what we have, and God helps us along the way, and we learn. Consider the next Bible verses here, that Jesus is good news, and it's communicated in different ways to different people. We read about it, how Jesus meeting the Samaritan woman, he describes the good news as it's like being refreshed with water when you're so thirsty. The gospel is like being refreshed with water. When Jesus was talking with tax collectors, he said the gospel is like having your debts forgiven. And when Jesus was with Lazarus, he talked about how the gospel is that Jesus gives us life, resurrection life. Throughout the Gospels we read that Jesus says he is the true bread of the presence. He is the true life, the vine that sustains us in life. He is our sustenance. He is the fulfillment of all of the Jewish customs. And throughout the book of Hebrews, we read about how Jesus is better. He's the better high priest. He's the better sacrifice. He's the better temple. He is better than the angels, better than Moses. And so throughout our lives, we can recognize that Jesus is better than anything we've been hoping for, anything we've been longing for. In each situation, we have to ask, how is Jesus the fulfillment of this? How is Jesus the solution to our issues, the answer to our questions and our problems? What aspects of Jesus most appealed to you when you first believed? And how about now? How is Jesus most precious to you? Which aspect of Jesus is mostly the good news for you? Would you pray with me? Jesus, thank you for being the fulfillment of all of our hopes and longings. Help us to speak about you in the gospel naturally in everyday life. Amen.